After 2 monumental years battling cancer, I discovered an amazing truth. Family can hurt and heal. Sarah woke up to the smell of coffee and the soft patter of little feet. At 35, she was more warrior than woman, wearing the scars of stage 4 cancer like medals. Each day was a battle. Each treatment a fight for her future and her daughter Lily. "Mommy, are we going to bake today?" Lily chirped, her bright eyes shining like stars. Sarah's heart tightened, a mix of joy and sorrow coursing through her. They were each other's world, but sometimes, the weight of her illness felt like an anchor dragging them both under. It wasn't just the cancer that held her back. The financial strain had built walls between her and her family. Estranged from her parents, and with Mark her brother gone too, loneliness gnawed at her. Nothing shattered her isolation like the emptiness in their absence. Yet today a text from Mark buzzed on her phone, reverberating through her like the echoes of a long-forgotten childhood. "Can we talk?" She stared at the screen, memories sweeping over her, laughter shared over ice cream, secrets whispered at midnight. Mixed with bitterness, the pain of abandonment reminded her why they had drifted apart. Did she even want to reconcile? Fear crept in. Fear of old wounds reopening, fear of vulnerability. But the thought of healing tied her to hope, and she sent back a shaky "ID like that." A week later, her small living room was alight with possibilities and doubts. Sarah set the table with care, each plate a symbol of her desire for unity. But when her parents walked through the door, the air turned thick with tension. Their stares felt like daggers aimed at her soul. "Nice place," her mother muttered, avoiding eye contact. At the diner, Sarah had mastered the art of serving guests with a smile. But this was different. This was family, and here hurt simmered just below the surface. They passed the mashed potatoes and meatloaf, a comfort food Sarah knew so well. The buried grumbles spilled out. "You never asked us for help, Sarah." Her father's voice was harsh, breaking the fragile peace. "You chose this fight alone." Every word cut deeper. The fury built up, and before she knew it, emotional truths erupted like a volcano. "I didn't want to burden you," she cried, her chest tightening, tears prickling her eyes. "I was fighting for my life." And it was true. Each treatment had drained her, leaving behind a hollow shell of the woman she used to be. Mark interjected, his voice laced with anger. "You say we didn't care, but you never let us in." Before the anger turned toxic, Sarah took a deep breath, her heart pounding. "Wait. Let me tell you about a stranger who showed me grace." She recounted an encounter at the hospital, a nurse who held her hand during a painful procedure, reminding her of humanity even on her darkest days. "It made me realize that we can't keep holding on to our resentments. We have to let go for each other." Just as hope flickered in their eyes, a knock at the door shattered the moment. Sarah's heart sank. There was no going back now. Could they face whatever came next together? She was left standing at a crossroads, contemplating if it was possible to reconcile the ties of love that had frayed under the weight of pain, or if they were destined to falter again in this chaotic journey towards understanding. The knock came again, louder this time, as if impatient. Sarah's heart raced. Could this be another chance? Or would it just add fuel to the fire igniting within her family? She exchanged glances with her parents, their faces a mixture of concern and confusion. "Who is it?" she called out, her voice steadying despite the chaos inside her. Silence hung for a moment, then a familiar voice chimed back. "It's me, Lily." Relief flooded Sarah's chest as she sprang to the door. Her daughter burst through, eyes wide with excitement, brightly colored drawings clutched in her small hands. "Look, Mommy. I made these for you." Heat of emotion spilled over, wrapping Sarah in warmth, if only for a moment. She knelt down, embracing Lily tightly, holding on as if she could absorb all the innocence and light her daughter radiated. "That's beautiful, sweetheart." Lily giggled, presenting each piece with exaggerated flair. A crooked sun, a dancing stick figure, and the words "Mommy is a warrior." The tension in the room seemed to dissolve slightly, bringing smiles to their lips, but the underlying storm still lurked on the horizon. "Wow, Mommy's a warrior?" Lily chirped. "That means you're super strong. Right, Grandma? Right, Grandpa?" The trust in her voice made Sarah's heart swell. Her mother watched, a flicker of something softening her sharp gaze. "Yes, she is," she sighed, patting Lily's head. "But sometimes even warriors need help." Mark's eyes glistened, and he glanced at Sarah, understanding reflected in their silent exchange. It's true, he said softly, we've all been through so much. Every one of us. The door had swung wide open, allowing the warmth of family in amidst their struggle. But as they moved to sit down again, Sarah couldn't shake the sense of urgency that pulsed within her. This was a chance at reconciliation, yet it felt precarious, like walking a tightrope. As dinner proceeded, the conversation flowed more easily, an ebb and flow of laughter echoing against the struggles they faced. But beneath the cheerful chatter, Sarah grappled with her thoughts. Would they really be able to forge a new path together? Or was this just a temporary illusion that would shatter under the pressure of reality? With each bite, she wrestled with the volatile energy that buzzed between them. I think we've all kept our pain bottled in. Sarah steered the conversation toward honesty. But we're going to need each other if we're going to heal. Her voice trembled on the last word. They were silent for a moment, her words hanging heavy. Sarah could see fear in her parents' eyes, but also a flicker of hope. You're right, Mark broke the quiet. We can't keep hiding from each other. The prospect of true healing lingered in the air like a fragile flame, and Sarah held her breath, waiting to see if they would listen. The past might have built walls around them, but she wanted to believe that this moment could be their start. And just as their hands reached out across the table, another knock echoed through the room, sharper, more insistent this time. The family froze, their eyes darting to the door. With her heart pounding in her ears, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that whatever waited outside could change everything again. Who or what was on the other side? The knock came again, relentless and urgent. It pierced through the fragile moment they just created. Sarah's heart thudded, an unsteady drumbeat of dread and anticipation. What now? Her family's tentative connection hung in the balance. The gentle glow of the dining room warmed her frozen thoughts, casting soft shadows over their strained faces. Should I open it? Sarah asked, glancing toward her parents. They nodded slowly, yet uncertainty flickered in their eyes. She approached the door, her breath hitching. With a firm hand, she twisted the knob and swung it wide. Standing before her was a tall figure, silhouetted by the late afternoon light. It was Jake, her estranged brother. The wind tousled his dark hair as he stood there, looking awkward yet hopeful. Sarah's heart caught at the sight, memories of laughter and childhood flooding back against the weight of the unresolved tensions that loomed like storm clouds. Jake? She whispered, disbelief lacing her voice. What are you doing here? He stepped inside without answering, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the family they hadn't been just moments ago. The walls felt different now, colorless and weighted, yet charged with possibility. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, he mumbled, his gaze dropping to the floor, uncertainty evident even as he stood before them. I just heard, well, I wanted to see how everyone was doing. Lily, oblivious to the past that had fractured her family, dashed over. Uncle Jake, look at my drawings. Mommy is a warrior. Her excitement melted some of the tension, the room's atmosphere slowly shifting as he knelt down to look. A hesitant smile broke through Jake's guarded demeanor, and he took one of the drawings. Wow, this is amazing, Lily, he said, his voice softer than Sarah remembered. It seemed to lift a smidge of weight from the air, a slight distraction from the brewing storm of unresolved issues. Jake, it's so good to see you, Sarah finally said, her voice trembling slightly. The statement held so much more than mere words. It was a bridge of hope, fingers crossed that he would meet her halfway. He straightened up, his countenance growing serious. I didn't know if you'd want to see me. A mix of regret and longing flashed in his eyes, a reminder of why they had kept their distance for so long. We're all about healing right now, remember? Mark chimed in, breaking the awkwardness. Why don't you sit? We need all hands on deck. The tension shifted, and they moved to gather around the table again. Jake's presence brought an uneasy comfort, every square inch of the room buzzing with unsaid words. Sarah could feel the emotional stakes rising, shifts in the unsteady ground they precariously stood on. You all are the reason I came back, Jake admitted, his voice low but firm, resonating through the air. I've missed us. Beneath the weight of his words, a crack formed in the invisible wall they had built. They didn't just miss one another. They had sat in silence too long, each harboring the pain of the past like a burden they couldn't let go. But as they leaned into each other, the warmth of family hanging in the air, another knock erupted at the door this time. It felt ominous, a darkness creeping back. Sarah's heart sank once more. Now what? She thought with dread. Who else was waiting outside, ready to unfold another chapter? The room went silent, the air thickening with unspoken fears and lingering hopes. Jake, who had just taken a step toward repairing the rift, turned to Sarah, his expression mirroring her apprehension. "What was that?" he asked, trying to maintain a brave front. "No idea," Sarah breathed, though the churning in her stomach suggested otherwise. A sinking feeling twisted within her. Another visitor could spell trouble, could undo everything they'd just begun to reclaim. "Should I get it?" Mark asked, feigning nonchalance as he cast a wary glance at the door. His voice was shaky, betraying the resolve behind his casual demeanor. "Let me," Sarah offered, but even as she took a step toward the door, doubt gnawed at her. The knock came again, more insistent this time. She gripped the knob, feeling the cool metal bite into her palm. With a deep breath, she swung the door open, preparing herself for whatever lay beyond. In the doorway stood Mary, her old friend from high school, eyes wide and her face pale. "Sarah," she stammered, "I'm sorry to come by like this, but it's urgent." Mary stepped inside, the chill of the outside world following her like a dark shadow. She noticed Jake and froze for a moment, awkward recognition flaring in her eyes. "I didn't know you were back." Jake shifted uncomfortably. "Yeah, just arrived." "What's going on?" Sarah asked, her pulse racing. Mary drew in a shaky breath. "I wouldn't come if it wasn't important." Her eyes darted as if someone might be listening, the urgency clear in her voice. "I just got a call from your mom's doctor. There are some complications from her treatment." A chill swept through the room, snaking around each of them, pulling their hearts into a tight knot. "What do you mean?" Sarah's voice trembled. "What kind of complications?" she said. She said they've discovered something else. Something serious. The words hung heavily above them, the atmosphere charged with fear and uncertainty. Sarah's stomach dropped, the fragile connections of family shaking anew. "Should we go see her?" Mark suggested, concern etched on his face. He reached out and placed a steadying hand on Sarah's shoulder. The warmth, normally a comfort, felt distant and cold. Maybe we should." Jake's voice was shaky, but there was an underlying determination. Behind his hesitation was a sense of purpose. They needed to come together, even in the face of what felt like inevitable loss. Lily, sensing the shift, stepped forward. "What's wrong? Is Grandma okay?" Sarah dropped to one knee, meeting her daughter's curious gaze. "Honey, we just have to check on Grandma. She might need us." With that, they began to gather their things, their moment of reconnection swallowed by the enormous weight of what lay ahead. Each family member's heart raced, a shared worry pulsing through them, binding them tighter than the earlier tension had frayed. As they shuffled toward the door, ready to face the unknown, Sarah caught Jake's eye. There was a flicker of understanding between them, a silent pledge that whatever they faced next, they would not face it alone. They stepped out into the fading light, a family, uncertain yet untethering themselves from the past. With each step, the air felt heavy with anticipation, and Sarah couldn't help but wonder if the pull of danger might usher in some deeper healing for them all. But as they reached the end of the driveway, a car pulled up, its headlights cutting through the dimming evening. Sarah squinted, recognizing the driver's silhouette just before the door swung open. "Mom," she whispered, panic washing over her. What awaited them now? Sarah's heart fluttered wildly in her chest as her mother stepped out of the car. Elaine looked frilier than Sarah remembered, her skin pale and eyes tired, yet there was something fierce in her expression. The shadows of her struggle hung around her, but her presence was a beacon, pulling Sarah closer. "Mom?" Sarah felt her voice crack, the word tangling in the fear and confusion that held her captive. She took a step forward and her mother's face softened, a smile creeping onto her lips, but it was shadowed by worry. "Surprise," Elaine managed to say, though her attempt at a joke fell flat in the charged air around them. "What are you doing here?" Sarah asked, shaking her head in disbelief. "You should be resting." "I know, sweetheart, but I had to see you. There's so much that needs to be talked about," Elaine replied, her tone urgent and pleading. Behind her, Mark and Jake exchanged worried glances. Lily clutched Sarah's hand, sensing the gravity of the moment, the tension thick like fog. Every passing second felt stretched, filled with unsaid words and unshared burdens. I didn't want to wait. Mary called me and I had to come. Elaine's voice trembled as her gaze shifted among them, weighing the comments that hung thick in the air. I know there has been so much time, so much anger. Mom, Sarah began, but her mother raised a hand to stop her. Let me say this. I know I've made mistakes. I know things haven't been perfect. But right now none of that matters. What matters is that I need you all here now. The words hit Sarah like drops of rain in a drought, unexpected but desperately needed. A flicker of hope ignited within her, right beneath the blanket of fear. Maybe this was that moment they could finally break free from the shadows of their past. Jake took a step closer, carefully choosing his words. What about the doctor? What did they say exactly? Elaine inhaled deeply, the breath loading her chest like a train gathering speed. The scans showed new growths. They are not what we expected. Her words trembled on the edge of clarity, and a sadness cracked across her face. They've put me on a new treatment plan, but I just don't know how much it's going to help. A silence filled the space between them, thick with unshed tears and the weight of reality. Each of them absorbed the words, the unwelcome truth settling into their bones. Do you want us to go with you for treatment? Mark asked, stepping in, his calm presence like a raft in turbulent waters. Elaine looked at her family, the corners of her eyes crinkling. I'd love that, she whispered. But more than that, I'd love if we could talk about everything, the hurt, the love, the regrets. Sarah felt her heart tug with conflicting emotions. The past was a tangled mess, but perhaps it could lead to clearer tomorrows. There was pain, a lot of it, but in that pain there was the potential for healing if they let it. Can we do that? Sarah asked, her voice soft yet resolute. Together, yes, Elaine replied, a tear escaping down her cheek, but it was met with a hopeful smile as they all stood together. The car lights dimmed to a warm glow, illuminating the small patch of their shared existence. In that moment, Sarah felt the tendrils of their fractured family begin to weave together again. But just as she felt something profound shift within them, a shadow crossed her mother's face, a fleeting glimpse of fear. We need to talk about the choices I've made and the choices we have moving forward. A chill washed over Sarah, and in her heart, she understood. The journey ahead was just starting. Little did they know, the hardest revelations were still to come. What truths would unravel as they stepped into their shared vulnerability? Sarah's breath caught in her throat. The weight of her mother's words sank deep, a chilling reminder of the reality they faced together. She looked around at the faces of her family, each one a mirror reflecting uncertainty and fear. Mark's brow furrowed, Jake's lips pressed together in concentration, and Lily's grip tightened on Sarah's hand, as if trying to anchor them all in this turbulent sea. Mom, we're here for you, Jake said, his voice steady but soft. Whatever choices you made or didn't make, we just want to understand. We want to support you. Elaine nodded slowly, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I need you to know that all those years I spent pushing you away, it was never about you. It was my fear taking over. I was scared of being seen as weak. Mark stepped forward, spinning the dynamics of their family ever so slightly. You're not weak. None of us are. It takes strength to admit vulnerability. Elaine inhaled deeply and began to share stories of her treatment, of moments when she felt utterly alone, and the choices that had led her to the current point of her life. It was a tapestry of rawness, woven with threads of fear and regret. There were times when I didn't think I'd make it to see you again. Times when I chose to laugh through my tears instead of facing the truth. I thought it would protect you. But hiding doesn't protect us, Mom, Sarah replied, her heart pounding faster as the hurt bubbled to the surface. You left us out. And we wanted to help you. We wanted to be part of it. Exactly, Jake added, crossing his arms. We are a family. We hurt together and we heal together. You don't have to carry this burden alone. Silence enveloped them for a moment, each member standing with a piece of the puzzle slowly falling into place. Sarah felt the air around them become charged with possibility. Maybe they could bridge this chasm between them. Can we try to mend this? Sarah asked, her voice barely above a whisper. She was terrified of the answer, scared that it might lead to rejection. Elaine's eyes met her daughter's, the fierce determination piercing through her fragility. We can try. But we need to be honest. I want to share the truth about my diagnosis, the decisions I made. Even the ones I regret deeply. As Elaine spoke, detailing moments when she chose to avoid conversations about her illness, there was an unearthed honesty. It felt agonizing yet liberating. The rawness of Elaine's voice, the tremor in her hands, all went unnoticed as everyone leaned in to listen, captivated. Now that I'm here, I want us to reconnect. It's time for our family to move forward together. Elaine paused, her expression shifting as if the truth she'd been holding on to finally broke free. But there's something else, something I need to confess. Could change everything. The tightened grips and pained expressions around her reignited that sense of urgency. Sarah's heart raced. They were on the precipice of something monumental. A tipping point, maybe that could alter the course of their relationships forever. What do you mean? Jake prompted, swallowing hard. Elaine glanced at each of them, taking a shaky breath. I've kept a secret. A secret about my past, about why I made certain choices. It's not easy to say, but you deserve to know the whole truth. Are you ready? With the weight of anticipation hanging palpably in the air, Sarah felt the ground shift beneath her. This could be the moment they've all been waiting for. The moment that brought clarity, or it might lead to another heartbreak. But as Elaine prepared to reveal her truth, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest revelations were still to come. Would this truth be the key to healing? Or would it tear them apart even more? Elaine's eyes flickered with a mixture of dread and resolve as she shifted in her seat. Years ago, before many of you were born, I made choices that I thought were right. But they haunted me every day. Her voice trembled, and Sarah could see her mother fighting against the tide of emotion swelling up inside her. Mom, just tell us, Sarah urged gently, her voice filled with a closeness that only family could forge through pain. Whatever it is, we can handle it. We're here for you. Elaine glanced at each of them, taking a moment to gather her thoughts. When I was younger, she began, I was in a very different place in my life. I made mistakes, big ones. I chose to put my career first, to chase dreams instead of nurturing my family. I thought my success would protect you all. I convinced myself that providing material things was enough. Sarah felt a knot in her stomach tighten. Each word felt like a stone dropping into the deep well of emotions. But that isn't what we needed, Mom, she replied softly. We just needed you. A shadow seemed to pass over Elaine's face. I know that now. But the decision I regret the most was hiding my illness from all of you. I thought by keeping it a secret I could spare you the pain. I didn't realize it would only hurt more. In so many ways. Mark's eyebrows knitted together, confusion evident. What do you mean you hid it? Were there signs we didn't see? Elaine nodded, tears spilling over. When I was diagnosed, I wasn't honest about the severity. I told myself I had it under control. I didn't want to be the weak one. The one who failed. I wanted to be a role model, someone to look up to. She took a shaky breath, her voice cracking. But in trying to be strong, I pushed you away. I ignored your concerns when you noticed I was losing weight, or when I was too exhausted to keep up with family activities. I kept you at arm's length because I thought I could fight this battle alone. As she confessed, Sarah could see her mother's pain laid bare, twisted by regret and loss. It was a wound that wouldn't heal quickly, and they all felt it digging deeper with every word. Mom, Jake interjected, we felt lost in this too. We want the truth. We want to help you heal, but you have to let us in. Elaine looked at him, shifting her gaze. There's more, she said slowly. I once had a chance to be treated by a cutting-edge clinical trial, but I hesitated. I turned it down out of fear of how it would change our lives, fear of putting you through more. I thought I was being wise, but it only led to more regrets. Sarah felt a wave of anger mixed with compassion wash over her. How could one decision ripple out so far? But if you thought it could save your life, why didn't you tell us? We could have been there to support you. I was afraid of burdening you, Elaine whispered, her head hanging low. How could I bring you into my chaos? And by pushing us away, Sarah replied firmly, you ended up burdening us more. We've been carrying this weight, not knowing how to help. The air crackled with emotion as they felt the gravity of Elaine's words sink in. They were teetering on the edge, standing in the aftermath of her unraveling life. And now the pieces needed to be picked up again. Each face around the room showed a mix of recognition and sorrow. They were all intertwined in this chaotic dance of hurt and healing. Can we start over? Can we find a way to heal together? Sarah asked, her voice trembling but hopeful as Elaine looked at her family. A flicker of something softer filled her gaze. I hope we can. But as they began to breathe in the space created by honesty, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling that more secrets were lurking underneath, waiting for the right moment to emerge. The question loomed heavy as the air. Was this the beginning or merely a step further down a complicated road? What lay ahead might just shake the very foundation of everything they thought they knew about one another. The room fell into a silence that felt both heavy and fragile. Their breaths intertwined, creating an unspoken pact to face this storm together. But Sarah's heartbeat quickened, an instinct deep within her shouting that they were just scratching the surface. Mom, Mark said, breaking the thick tension, what about the trial? Did you ever think about it again? Maybe there's still a chance. Elaine's eyes glistened, a flicker of hope battling her exhaustion. I've thought about it every day. I can't shake the what-ifs from my mind. But now it feels like it's too late. Sarah leaned forward, her voice urgent. It's not too late, Mom. We can look into it together. We owe it to each other to explore every option. Elaine rubbed her temples as if the weight of their conversations was pressing down on her. I don't want to get your hopes up. I don't want to drag you into something if there's no promise. Jake, fists clenched in determination, spoke up. Every single member of a family deserves a shot at healing. We would never give up on you. So why should you give up on yourself? A twinge of gratitude mixed with pain crossed Elaine's face. She reached out, placing her hand on Jake's arm. I never wanted to appear weak in front of you. This struggle, I thought it would ruin the person I was supposed to be, the mother you deserved. You don't have to be perfect, Mom, Sarah implored, her eyes shimmering. We just want you. The good, the bad, all of it. The real you. Elaine inhaled a shaky breath, as if the past 2 years were coiling tightly within her, and now, finally, there was an urge to unravel. I'm tired of pretending, she admitted. But the thought of cost. The travel, the time. Mark raised his hand, pointing out the window where the sun dipped low, casting a golden hue that brightened their living room. We'll figure it out one step at a time. Together. We've always known life would throw us challenges. What's one more? But something in Sarah's gut twisted. She remembered the stories from clinical trials, catching glimpses of families torn apart by expectations and disappointment. There's a chance it could be hard, Mom. I can't promise everything will be okay simply because we want it to be. Elaine met her gaze and nodded slowly. I understand. But knowing I'm not alone, that might just be the most powerful medicine I could ask for. The conversation hung in the air, as fragile as the sunlight streaming in, capturing the myriad of emotions spiraling in that moment. They could feel the shift, a decision waiting to be made, but still a weight lingering without clarity. It was daunting to think that within each of them still lived the shadows of years unspoken, lurking just beneath the surface. What if that trial ends up showing something we weren't expecting? Sarah whispered, a question lingering in her mind. What if it uncovers truths we didn't know? As Elaine contemplated, her lips pressed together in a hard line. Sometimes the truth unearths more than just information. It could expose scars we've buried deep. Are we ready for that? The question hung between them, now a palpable presence. Sarah felt the air shift, heavy with uncertainty yet tinged with hope. Would they be ready, truly ready, for the secrets still waiting to be uncovered? For the truths that could rip their world apart or heal it in ways they never imagined? And as dusk faded into night, each heartbeat echoed the reality that whatever choice they made, the journey ahead was far from over. The next morning, sunlight filtered through the curtains, splashing golden warmth across the breakfast table. But the warmth didn't exactly melt the frost clinging to their hopes. Sarah sat at the table, her cereal forgotten, her mind racing over the conversation from the previous night. Are we really going to do this? She murmured to herself. Her thoughts were spiraling. The potential paths of the clinical trial loomed heavy in her mind. Mark appeared in the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes. You okay? He asked, noticing her distracted stare. Just thinking about everything, she replied, a hint of anxiety creeping into her voice. Hey, whatever happens, we're in it together, right? He said, trying to lift her spirits. A small smile broke through, but the ache in her heart didn't fade. They had been living with their mom's illness for so long, every moment tinted by anxiety and fear. It was exhausting, but the idea of tackling the unknown was also terrifying. What if this trial didn't hold the promise they hoped for? What if it unraveled everything they were trying to patch together? Meanwhile, in another room, Elaine stared out of the window, watching the leaves flutter in the gentle breeze. The golden hues of autumn reminded her of choices not just for her health, but for a brighter future for her family. "Mom, we need to talk about the next steps," Jake said, entering the room. He felt the weight of the world, ready to lift his family's spirits. Elaine turned, pulling her thoughts back to the moment. "Okay," she said, her voice steady but quiet. "I'm ready to explore this trial. But I need you to understand it's going to take everything we have." Jake nodded. "We'll figure it out. We can research, look into accommodations. We can find ways to make this work." He watched her, awe mingled with concern. The thought of their mother becoming vulnerable was tricky territory, and he could see the strain of the past 2 years etched on her face. "But we can't do this if you're not all in," he added, testing the waters. "I know," Elaine sighed, her eyes glistening with unspilled tears. "I just worry, what if I can't meet your expectations?" "Mom, we don't have any expectations. Just be you," he said softly, stepping closer. The warmth of his presence radiated comfort. As the day unfolded, they each began to immerse themselves in research about the trial. Sarah pored over notes and websites, fingers tapping at her keyboard as she searched for any detail that might ease their minds. With every click, she could hear her heart hammering. This was real. After a quiet dinner, the dim light from the table casting shadows across their faces, they gathered together, piecing together each shred of information. It felt like assembling a puzzle, but the picture remained stubbornly out of focus, tauntingly elusive. "Wait, look at this!" Mark exclaimed, his eyes lighting up. "Their essay support group for families involved in similar trials. We could talk to them." Sarah's eyes sparkled with realization. "That could help. If we know what others have gone through, maybe we can prepare ourselves." Elaine watched as her children connected, their hope flickering like a candle in the dark. For the first time in a long while, she felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had a direction, a way forward that might lead to healing. But amid the glimmers of hope, an unease settled in her stomach. Deep down, she sensed that the truths they wanted to uncover could dig deeper than they anticipated. "Are we ready for what's to come?" she asked, her voice trembling at the edge of insight. The three of them locked eyes, a silent acknowledgement of the toughness ahead settling like a cloak around their shoulders. They weren't fully equipped, but they were willing to try as the night drew on. The emotional currents pulsed between them, uncertainty mingled with stubborn hope. Tomorrow they would speak to that support group. But what would they say when their truths began to unfold? How deep could the wounds go? And would they emerge stronger or even more fractured? Questions hung in the air, looming over the family, promising that this was just the beginning of their journey into the unknown. The morning sun poured through the kitchen window, filling the room with a radiant glow. Sarah breathed in the warmth, but the heavy weight in her chest remained. They had faced countless obstacles together, and now another awaited. The clinical trial loomed over them like a shadow, but today was different. Today was about hope. Sarah watched her family gather at the breakfast table. Mark flipped through notes, his brow furrowed in concentration, while Elaine tinkered with her coffee, a quiet resolve settling over her face. Jake's presence brought a comforting strength. They were no longer just connecting through pain, they were building a future. "Let us do this together," Sarah said, her voice steady, breaking through the anxious silence. "No matter what happens, we're a team." Elaine met her gaze, a flicker of pride shining through her exhaustion. "I'm ready," she whispered, her small voice filled with enormous determination. They all nodded. It was a pact, unspoken yet understood. As they gathered their things and piled into the car, Sarah felt a surge of energy well up inside her. The drive to the hospital felt less daunting, the air filled with purpose rather than fear. Lily, strapped safely in her seat with her drawings, was the beacon of light they all needed. "Mommy, are you going to be super strong today?" she asked, her innocent voice ringing with hope. "Yes, sweetheart. We all are." Lily beamed, her trust wrapping around Sarah like a protective blanket. Once they arrived, the atmosphere shifted. In the waiting room, the tension thickened, but so too did the sense of community. Sarah scanned the faces of families sharing similar burdens, some with smiles, others with tears. It was a reminder they were not alone, and that realization doused the fears swirling inside her. Elaine gripped the armrest, her knuckles white. "This is going to be hard," she murmured. What if it's bad news? Sarah leaned in closer, her heart pounding. Whatever it is, we will face it together. You don't have to do this alone anymore. As they entered the consultation room, Sarah's head spun with possibilities. Jake took Elena's hand, holding it tightly, his eyes filled with unwavering support. They waited as the doctor appeared, his face unreadable, filling the space with palpable tension. "Thank you all for coming," he said, settling into his chair. The words felt like a lead weight, heavy with uncertainty. "We need to discuss the results of the testing and the options moving forward." Sarah held her breath, glancing at Elaine, who blinked slowly, bracing herself against the impending storm. The doctor launched into medical jargon, discussing the grim stats, the realities of growths, the uncertainties. She heard words like chemotherapy, radiation, but all she could focus on was Elena's face. "And this particular trial is promising," the doctor concluded. "It offers potential for new therapies, but it's rigorous and requires full commitment." There was a moment, a breath, where time stopped. Elaine's eyes widened. "So there's a chance?" she asked, hope creeping into her voice. "Yes," the doctor replied. "But please consider it carefully. This will change your life and your family's as well." Sarah felt the pulse of her heart settle into a rhythm, but a wave of doubt swept over her. This was it. This was the choice that could transform their lives completely. Could they handle it? After the appointment, as they walked toward the exit, Sarah's heart surged with emotions. "We can do this," she said confidently, squeezing Elena's hand. "What do you say?" "I say we're in it together," Elaine replied, tears glistening in her eyes. Relief washed over them as they stepped into the daylight, blending into one another as shadows. Returning home, laughter bubbled between them, a stark contrast to the worry they had carried for so long. They began to peel back the layers of history and pain, sharing their fears, their dreams, and more importantly, their willingness to face the uncertain road ahead. Elaine shared not just her fears about the treatment, but also her dreams of seeing Lily grow, of cherishing moments together. "Mom," Sarah said, gazing into her mother's eyes, "whatever happens, let's promise to be honest with each other from now on. No more walls." Elaine nodded, a tear falling freely down her cheek, but it wasn't purely sadness. It was a release of years of hurt and longing. "Yes," Elaine whispered, her voice a vow that echoed deep in their hearts. They began to speak of future family adventures, trips they would take, and the little things they had taken for granted. As dusk settled, the warmth of shared understanding enveloped them. They held hands, forming an unyielding chain of support. Sarah felt the power of unity, the strength in their vulnerability. They were truly a family again, stronger than the pain of their past. "Together," Jake said firmly, squeezing Elena's shoulder. "Always together," Mark echoed. And in that intimate circle, radiating love and newfound resolve, Sarah realized they were no longer just battling the storm, they were dancing in the rain. Moments shared, laughter discovered, and promises made. She could see a future filled with hope. And as the twilight faded, she felt an undeniable truth settle in her heart. Healing needed family, and they were finally ready to embrace it fully. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.